Now we have reached downtown Herrin. It looks like a downtown that you would expect from a small Midwestern town of its size. Nothing more, nothing less. Keep in mind that this community was where people of color were allowed to live back in the early days. Obviously, it's not that way anymore now, but for generations of families from this community, this is still home to them. Herrin, Illinois is about an hour and 50-minute drive southeast of St. Louis. Oh, and by the way, if you haven't seen this already, there's a link down below that shows you an interactive map on all of the places that I've made videos on. It's really easy to use. All you have to do is click on the link to the map and then click on a pin that will take you to a link of said place. Herrin is a town that's in southern Illinois coal country. Even though there's not much coal mining here going on in these backwoods towns today, the economic history of Herrin and all of the other nearby towns are dominated by coal mining activity. Now, Herrin is doing better than some of the other towns that I've visited so far. Herrin's doing much better today than places like Johnston City, Centralia, West Frankfort, or Harrisburg. Herrin benefits from being located in close proximity to Carbondale and Marion. Carbondale is home to Southern Illinois University, which is a larger public school, so it's guaranteed to be a boost to the local economy. Marion, on the other hand, is one of the only rural Illinois towns that's not home to a large public university that hasn't fallen in a downward economic spiral. Now that you have a good idea of the region that Herrin is surrounded by, it's time to check out the city. Let's get to it, shall we? I do start the video on the eastern side of Herrin. If you're unfamiliar with my videos, I do speed up my videos in order to show more in a less amount of time. You can always keep up with the real time that it takes me to drive in the lower left corner of the screen. If I go too fast for you, or if you think that I'm going too slow, you can always adjust the playback speed by selecting the gear icon if you're watching on PC, or by selecting the three-dotted menu if you're watching on a mobile device. Isn't YouTube great? As we start this video, I thought that this was a neat showcase of local pride. For this video, I came across the high school rather quickly. On the left is Herrin High School, and as you can see by that wall art back there, Herrin High School is home to the Tigers. The most well-known alumni of Herrin High School, by far and away, is Steve Fisher, who was the head coach for the University of Michigan's basketball team from 1989 to 1997. For those who know college basketball, those people know that Fisher was the coach for Michigan's Fab Five, one of college basketball's most controversial yet talented teams. Fisher went on to coach San Diego State afterwards from 1999 to 2017. Back to channel promotion, however, I am a YouTuber, and in 2020, that's how you YouTube. Yes, that's a verb. Go look it up. If you enjoy this video, make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe, as doing all of those things helps these videos out with the YouTube algorithm. Also make sure to hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time that I upload a new video of an area near you. If you enjoy this video, you might enjoy checking out some of the featured playlists on my channel. Videos on places like Herrin can be found in my Illinois playlist and in my USA Small Towns playlist. Last but not least, if you can't get enough of me on here, you can always go follow me on my other social media accounts, and those links are below. Currently, I'm heading south while cutting through on the east side of the city, and we're going to eventually come up upon a large abandoned warehouse. This is a former Maytag plant. In 2006, Maytag announced that they were closing the plant, which subtracted around 1,000 jobs from the region. Today, the plant remains standing and vacant. It's a large plant that takes up about the size of 13 city blocks, and despite the large vacant plant, Herrin is actually doing quite well in comparison to other nearby Illinois cities. You would think that it would have followed down the same economic spiral as some of the others, but being in close proximity to nearby Carbondale and Marion does help. Colp. The three cities are like a family, holding on to each other for dear life, trying not to follow the same trend as the rest of rural Illinois by falling in an economic downward spiral. Today, Herrin is home to 12,600 people, which is the highest population that Herrin has ever had. The town continues to be growing ever so slightly, which, for rural Illinois standards, is a big win. The median household income is $43,000 per year, which is below the national median of $68,000, but it's quite higher than some other nearby towns. The poverty rate is 14.5%, which is also a better rate than many other nearby towns. 23% of adults have a bachelor's degree or higher, compared to the national rate of 36%, and the median value of owner-occupied housing units is $86,000, compared to the national median value of $210,000. The crime rates in Herrin are below average, so that's not an issue here. And the public schools on niche.com are ranked as a B-, so those are above average as well. Herrin doesn't have too much history outside of one event. Herrin is named after a Baptist preacher named Isaac Herring. Herring was also the town's first permanent settler, which is why the town was named after him. In the 1860s, coal was discovered nearby. It was coal mining and railroads that originally brought people and jobs to the region. Herrin was the site of the Herrin Massacre in 1922. Nationwide at the time, coal miners that were union members went on strike to fight for their rights. In response, the local coal mine owner hired non-union members to do the job while union members were on strike. Gunfire was exchanged between the union members and the armed guards, which killed over 20 people together. Union members then started shooting at the newly hired workers. Sheesh. We're all complaining about how people are going crazy in 2020, but I think it's safe to say that we're better at solving problems as a society today than we were back then. Although, we're definitely not perfect today, but we never will be, as nothing in this world has been or ever will be perfect. Speaking of imperfections, this region of Illinois is known for having a racist past. Sundown towns are scattered about throughout the southern Illinois region. A sundown town is a town that up until the 1960s wouldn't allow anyone of color to be visible on the town's public streets once the sun went down. I looked for a long time and I didn't find Herrin on any list of sundown towns. However, I did find that up until 1957, Herrin had its own high school for the whites, and then separately there was Herrin Township High School where people of color would attend. Back when I made a video on some other nearby sundown towns, such as Benton, West Frankfort, and Johnston City, I had a viewer comment about a community that's nearby to Herrin called Colp. Towards the end of this video, I drive through the unincorporated town of Colp, which is a town that back in the day is said to have been one of the few places in southern Illinois that people of color were allowed to live in. Illinois was not a slave state, but the southern part of the state had its southern roots. Abraham Lincoln, who was the 16th president of the U.S. and lived much of his young adult life in Illinois, is credited for being the lead man to put an end to slavery, but southern Illinois is not without its racist roots. Nonetheless, we have made our way to the town's commercial drag strip on the south end. If we were to have been going the opposite way, we would have been going through the town of Energy before reaching Illinois Route 13, which connects Herrin to Carbondale, Marion, and the interstate. Now we have reached downtown Herrin. It looks like a downtown that you would expect from a small Midwestern town of its size. Nothing more, nothing less. Let's get a closer look at some of the storefronts on both sides of this strip. I like that sign, Brian Furniture. Very nice. And now for the other side. We are currently heading north, by the way, so the side that we're looking at is the east side of this main strip. That's a neat little helicopter display outside of the VFW post. Some of these buildings that are away from the main strip appear to be falling apart, which is pretty typical for the towns of these size in the year 2020. Now I make my way to Colp, which is originally the community where colored people were allowed to live in back in the early days, like around 1940 to 1960 and before then. As I head towards Colp, I'm cutting through the southwestern part of the city. Oh man, what do we got going on here? Some kind of drug deal? I tell you what, those are some dangerous looking people, blocking the roadway dealing who knows how many grams of pot. Don't want to meet them in a dark alley. Okay, I really need to settle down. Those people are probably both really nice people, and in these small towns, you can block roadways and talk to your neighbors all you want. I really just need to chill. We are now officially out of the city limits of Herrin, and we are on our way to Colp. And here we are, Colp, Illinois, home to only 210 people. However, back in 1930, Colp was home to 1,300 people. This main drag here is called Mayor Caliper Drive and is the main road through this community. Mayor Frank Caliper served as the mayor of Colp from 1931 all the way to 1987 for a total of 57 years. As we zigzag our way through the blocks of incredibly narrow streets that make up Colp, keep in mind that this community was where people of color were allowed to live back in the early days. Obviously, it's not that way anymore now, but for generations of families from this community, this is still home to them. Also remember that I mentioned earlier how there was a separate high school in this community where people of color would attend, which was called Herrin Township High School. In the actual town of Herrin was Herrin High School, where colored people were not allowed to attend. That lasted all the way through 1957 based off of what I could find, and with that in mind, it makes sense as to why Colp looks the way that it does, as it was never given much of a chance for prosperity to begin with, and the residents here were treated with lower quality services than the larger white community of nearby Herrin. Colp is named after John Colp, who owned the Colp Coal Company, so this town grew for the same reasons that all of the others grew in this region. Going back to what I've been saying about Colp so far, there were dozens of towns with physical signs up reminding people of color that they need to leave town before the sun goes down. Colp never had those signs up, so it was a place that black people felt safe moving to. Over time, this is where people of color stayed, while white people stayed in other white communities that offered better services, education, and access to jobs. You have to wonder if all of these empty lots, or maybe the right term would be fields, between all of these grid streets used to be occupied with mobile homes or other types of housing, or if it has always looked this way. With that said, I do end the video here. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe, as doing all of those things helps these videos out with the YouTube algorithm. Also make sure to hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time that I upload a new video of an area near you. If you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy checking out some of the featured playlists on my channel. Videos on other places like Herrin can be found in my Illinois playlist and in my USA Small Towns playlist. Last but not least, if you can't get enough of me on here, you can always go follow me on my other social media accounts, and those links are below. We'll see you next time. Peace!